Right, so as Amy said, we're going to discuss this afternoon business intelligence, and the webinar's planned to last no more than 30 minutes, so it should be nice and focused, hopefully. So is business intelligence meeting the needs of finance, or is it actually biting off more than it can chew and potentially risking failure? Business intelligence remains to be one of the hottest IT-related topics for any business today. Everywhere you go, BI is always referenced. I mean, I attend a lot of the JDE and Oracle events run by the OUG and Oracle themselves, and you can always guarantee at some point there's a slot for BI on the agenda. As companies and their employees' appetite for information shows no sign of abating, BI projects are regularly presented as the cure-all solution to companies' ever-increasing information requirements. And BI is often seen as a one-stop shop to give organisations everything they need in terms of reporting and information. Now, historically, BI projects have had an above-average failure rate, and there's a real chance that this heightens expectations and puts pressure on the BI team to deliver. Now, BI projects can often make or break a person's career, as they've got a huge price tag, and attached to them, they are also visible at the top of an organisation. So it's really important that your BI project is a success. And that's what we're going to discuss today, and ways that you can actually minimise the risk. So what's driving the need for business intelligence? Now, the internet has set a new standard for information. It's certainly whetted people's appetite for instant access to data, but in an intuitive user interface. Now, this requirement, I think, has spilled over into corporate life, with managers now expecting their own systems to operate like a Google search engine, and they want to get ad hoc information relating to any piece of data that they know in the ERP solution, but in a very, very simple format. Now, ERP systems are always going to struggle in this world, as the very nature of them is that they were implemented to put controls into the business. Now, they're great for transaction entry and for setting up things like workflow, but they're not great for reporting and inquiry. This is pretty much the same of all the ERP solutions that I've worked with, and certainly JDE and Oracle that I've spent the last 10 years, over 10 years working with. So data volumes are continually growing, as you obviously know. Each year, if you're not archiving data, you're just amassing more and more information. And summary information is okay, but people need to be able to drill down to the underlying transactions, and they must be able to do that in an easy format and just at the click of a single button. So they want to be able to step from a GL transaction, look where that transaction was posted from, if it was accounts payable, for instance, who posted that invoice, is there a scanned image attached to that, what's the purchase order number. They don't want to be digging around in the ERP system. They want an intuitive interface to be able to answer those questions. Now, many enterprises are recognising that the fast pace of change in business markets requires a new view of how the business is managed, and a new approach to preparing for the future is required, because most organisations are in a very competitive situation, and things are constantly changing, and you need to be able to react to those changes. Obviously, people will also be aware that there's been lots of corporate scandals over the last few years, and fraud. People have left memory sticks on trains, for instance, or published things that they shouldn't have published. So that's also a hot topic. Now, BI is repeatedly presented as a single cure to a company's entire reporting requirements. I don't believe things are really that simple. So here's a quote from Gartner. They're saying, despite years of investing in BI, many IT organisations have difficulty connecting BI with the business, and to get the business users fully involved and out of the Excel culture. Now, when I travel around our existing customers and potentially new customers, you can walk into an account's office and lots of people have got Excel open, and there are lots of different micro data systems and mini data warehouses around the organisation that are completely disconnected from either Oracle or JDE. So you spent all this money, on your ERP solution, but you're actually still living and breathing Excel. An old manager of mine once said to me that Excel was a bit like fast food. It gave instant gratification, but there were very few long-term benefits. So it doesn't have to look like this. Most most BI solutions, the data will be extracted at a certain point. So that could be daily, it could be once an hour, but it's very, very rarely is that real time. And that information is then manipulated and fed into your BI solution, and the numbers come out the other end. Now, if you're looking at historic information, that's fine, as those numbers obviously won't change. If, however, you're in an operational role, the numbers that your BI system have told you won't be the same as the numbers in your ERP, as transactions are constantly being posted. So if you're sat in an accounts department and your BI system is updated, say, overnight, at month end, when you're constantly posting transactions and you're posting accruals and prepayments, etc., you won't be able to have an up-to-date view of your data till the following morning, and that isn't ideal because most companies that I work with, they're under increased pressure to actually reduce the amount of time spent at month end and year end and quarterly reporting. So who is driving the need for business intelligence within an organisation? Now, IT departments tend to look BI as it offers a big project and gives them opportunity to learn new skills, which is, everybody wants to learn something new. It also helps them to gain control over the end users, as they know there are lots of disparate systems out there in the business, and they want to actually rein that in. Consulting firms promote BI because BI projects generate huge consulting and project management fees. More often than not, the cost of implementing BI will outweigh the cost of the software itself. And it also provides access to the chief execs within an organisation, and these consultancy firms will obviously take the opportunity then to try and cross-sell additional services into there. Now, senior managers are usually very, very desperate to get their hands on information, as this is what's obviously driving their ability to make timely decisions. And they believe BI is going to give them everything that they want. I mean, lots of people, these type of people obviously attend events run by Oracle, and BI is constantly pushed as the answer to everybody's problems. So, in my opinion, with most things, there are two sides to every story. So companies sometimes struggle to reconcile the different objectives of the IT department and the end-user communities. I mean, normally the IT function wants to bring some control to what they feel is broadly quite a chaotic process. They know there are lots of satellite data warehouses and complex spreadsheets out there in the business. I mean, most accountants that I know, and I'm an accountant, you spent 4 years studying, to pass your professional exams, and then you end up spending your time in spreadsheets doing complex macros and pivot tables. Also, different data from distant systems producing different results doesn't reflect well on the underlying systems or often the IT department, and the natural approach is to want to get control of the situation. Putting all reporting data in one place, consolidating it into a single set of rules and delivering it to the business is what people sometimes see as the ideal solution. Now, as an accountant, I very much come at this from an end-user perspective. The end users agree with the need for fast, reliable, consistent data. However, they normally lose patience with the process and the handcuffs that it can bring. They just want to get fast and easy solution to their problems. So they want the flexibility and something that can be implemented in days rather than months or years. One of the most common frustrations is when you implemented Oracle or JDE, you probably spent days locked away with your implementation partner, setting up complex coding structures, chart of accounts, and descriptive flex fields or category codes, and you just want to be able to group and analyze data in a particular way. But when you actually go live, you find that information is actually locked away, and it's very, very hard to get to that, and finding somebody who's got the key is virtually impossible. Now, the most common reasons why business intelligence projects fail, and there's a few things here, but there's a quote also from Gartner saying that most BI applications today are disconnected from the business process and the decisions that they actually have been put in place to support. Now, businesses could never agree on what they really wanted. Now, given the diverse needs of the end users and the stakeholders, it's a struggle to get the business to define how things are measured and what they need to report on. BI projects often fail what we call the RAP test, so is something relevant? Now, what exact business problems are we solving here, and what is the cost? Inaccurate information breeds distrust, which means the project is already a failure. And in relation to consistency, any doubt over the data and people will stop using it. So what you're going to give people has got to be 100% accurate and consistent. And I think just as important, it's got to be timely. Are you giving the users within the organisation the information when they need it? Getting the information you need, but 2 days later, is of little use to an end user. So not being able to adapt to change. One thing that's certain about a BI project is that requirements will change and user expectations and appetites will mature. Often what the users want to address is ad hoc requests for information, and they want that straight away. So as you go through your BI project, you might deliver some quick wins at the beginning of the project, but that will just set people thinking of all the other things that they might possibly want. And there's an obvious urge to please and to try and make BI do the ad hoc operational reporting that it hasn't really been designed to do. Now, BI implementations are typically large, complex projects that reach the top of the organisation. So, and often the total cost of ownership can be completely overlooked, because when you buy your BI solution, you might not have visibility of the full cost of the consultancy and actually how much it's going to cost to implement that. So it's very hard to see the total cost, because sometimes at the beginning of a project you don't actually have all the requirements from the business. Now, most people think that the software selection defines success or failure of a project. Now, in my opinion, nothing could be further from the truth, because nearly all BI software vendors have the same amount proportion of stars and skeletons. It's not uncommon to see two similar types of companies, both using the same software product, delivering best-in-class and also worst-in-class case studies. This can be down to a number of different things. It could be company culture, requirements definition, implementing a BI system without knowing what questions you want answered is a quick way to failure, and project management all have a significant greater bearing on the success of a BI project than actually the software that you've selected, because they fundamentally do the same thing. So can you really expect to deliver all this in a single solution? Well, when you look at this in a pictorial format, it's very obvious that you can't select a single product that's going to give you your dials and gauges at the top for your C-level executives, and also tell the warehouse manager at the bottom there how many widgets he has in a particular location. And in between those two levels, there's a whole host of different information requirements that the business needs. So when you look at it in this format, all organisations, no matter how large or small, have different information requirements depending on the role of the person receiving that data. BI is very well placed to service those at the C level, but doesn't offer the flexibility to address the needs of people wanting operational information, and that's what I would class as daily, weekly, or on a ad hoc basis. Accounting and finance need to be able to write their own reports and queries and drill down to the underlying transactions and across to the supporting ledger. Imagine if you could remove all that operational layer from your BI project and just concentrate on what BI is great at. And we've actually got customers that will testify that by using Insight for all their operational reporting, it has actually increased the success of their BI project. And it's enabled them to deliver their BI project quicker than they would have been able to if they were doing the operational reporting, because it's really concentrating on what BI is good at. So, some practical ways to de-risk your BI project. People seem to think BI is a product, but it's not, it's a concept. So, too many projects are often caught up with feature functions and not enough about the end user needs and the information that the end users need to actually do their job. Now, nothing says that the entire corporate information strategy has to be delivered in a single solution. Once you've selected the right tool for the right job, you can spend time understanding the requirements of the different users. So don't be scared to offload some of the requirements from the BI project to help make it a success. We've got several customers, as I just mentioned, that have done this. All the different users around the organisation can then get the information they need and when they need it, and more importantly, in a format that actually suits their requirements. Because as an accountant, I'm not interested in dials and gauges particularly. I just want to see numbers, and I want to see what makes those numbers up. Have I got a full audit trail of where a transaction came from? Whereas my manager will probably want something graphically represented. BI projects are very visible at the top of the organisation, and as mentioned earlier, they could make or break a person's career. So the tighter the scope of the BI project, the greater the chance of success. BI projects are often linked to other strategic objectives of a business. So again, that makes them high profile, and they might be tied into things that you haven't necessarily got a lot of control over. So making the BI part of that a success is really, really important. So, we at Insight can deliver everything below the line in a matter of days, not months, at a fraction of the cost, which is also very, very important in today's economic climate. Anyone who requires operational data will want to drill down from the summary information to the underlying transactions. And what you generally see is accountants with massive spreadsheets that are in fact satellite data warehouses that have completely broken the link to the ERP solution. And what's the point in purchasing Oracle or JDE, then spending months implementing that to find that the very reports that people are basing business decisions on are coming from Access databases or spreadsheets? That is not why you purchase a world-class ERP solution. So, what do you get with Insight? Insight has been specifically written to just run over Oracle, Financials, and JD Edwards. And because it is focused on those two ERP solutions, both owned by Oracle, it has a lot of the inherited logic of those solutions. So, for instance, when I log into Insight, regardless of whether it's our Oracle or JDE version, it follows all the security rules. So I'm sure your auditors they're looking at security and workflow. So to be able to give somebody information that still adheres to the security that you've set up is actually very, very important and shouldn't be underestimated. Obviously, when you set up your systems, you've set up chart of account coding structures, and you might have set up FSGs if you're on Oracle. And you want to be able to leverage that within your inquiry tool. You don't want to have to set up something again that you've already got defined. And we can also show reports on lots of that hidden data that's held in JDE and Oracle. So whether that be descriptive flex fields in Oracle or category codes in JDE, these are all made available in Insight. So we talk to the database real time, so all the information that you see within Insight is always real time. So when you press run, what you're getting is data as it stands in your ERP solution at that point in time. You can start off at a summary level and drill across to the supporting ledgers such as AP, AR, purchasing, depending on where the transaction came from. And it's very, very simple to use. It's been written by accountants for accountants, and we'll just dive into that in a minute to show you, but I think that comes over very, very strongly. And that's why the user take-up and adoption of Insight is extremely quick within an organisation. So Insight really is the easy way to de-risk your business intelligence project. It's intuitive to use, it's real time, it's fast, and I think more importantly, it simplifies businesses. The software needs to simplify processes rather than make them more complex. And I know that sounds really, really simple, but it's amazing how many times you go into organisations and things have just got completely out of control from what they actually started with 3 or 4 years ago when they first implemented their ERP. So I think it's always good to look back to what you were hoping to achieve initially and keep reminding yourself of that fact. So Insight works very well with business intelligence because as you've seen by the graphical, the little pictorial representations earlier, Insight will go up to a certain point, and we don't cross over with business intelligence when it comes to things like dashboards and analytics and scorecards. But people that want real-time information will look to operational information, and tactical information will look to Insight for those answers. So a lot of people on the call might have presumably have heard of Insight, but I don't know if anybody knows we were actually awarded the most innovative product of the year by the Oracle User Group in 2011. So I think that's a massive accolade of the flexibility of our software, and that's voted for by end users and people that are members of the Oracle User Group community. I think that's testament in the fact that we've got 650 customers now and over 45,000 users in 100 countries, and we are a global solution. And the software is actually owned and written by Insight, so we're not reselling this for somebody else. So we have complete control over the intellectual property. And here are just a few of our customers. Anybody who's running JD or Oracle can actually use Insight because we're just reporting directly over the database. Now, just to finish up for the last 5 to 10 minutes, I was just going to give you a bit of a whistle-stop tour of Insight and how we would differentiate ourselves from BI, and hopefully that'll become obvious in a second. So when you log into Insight, we could install this on your data tomorrow, and it literally takes a couple of hours to install, so it's very, very simple. And what you get a number of predefined templates. So unlike with the BI solution, when you literally start with a blank whiteboard and you have to map out what you want to achieve, within Insight, if I click on New, I'm going to get a list of the modules that we cover, and this is our Oracle footprint. In JDE, we actually cover all the distribution and manufacturing modules also, but the fundamentals are exactly the same. So for each module, I'll have a different set of templates. So if I go back to the general ledger and just click on my balances, if I wanted to have a really, really high level view of what's going on, I can just click Run, and it's going to go away and instantly provide me with a trial balance. If I scroll down to the bottom, I can see that this is going back to 0, so nice and easy. When the software was installed, it automatically read your accounting segments. So in Oracle, these can obviously be different. The accounting segments you can have up to, I think, about 12 segments. From a JD perspective, that would be business unit, object, and subsidiary. So you don't need to know how any of that is mapped together. So if I wanted to look at all my departments, for instance, beginning with a 4, I can just type 4-star in there, and it's going to go away and do that. If I want to then say, I only want to look at those departments for a particular range of accounts. So now I can start narrowing down what I'm looking at. So now I'm getting a reduced set of data. So, for instance, if I wanted to then have a look at anything that makes some of these numbers up, so if I click on, for instance, equipment expense, right-click to follow the links, and go down to the transactions, it will then pass all that data through, and it's going to say, this is actually coming from accounts payable. So rather than scribble something down on a bit of paper and then go away to a different inquiry screen to look at that further, by a simple mouse click, I can drill down to the next level of detail. So this is now telling me that this is made up of a number of different transactions, and any one of those I could then either go and have a look at the accounts payable invoice, or if I wanted to, I could step across to purchasing and have a look at that from a purchasing perspective. So that's really, really powerful, because I started off in the general ledger at a very high level of detail, and now I can go down and I can even see which requisition this was raised from. So very, very, very powerful indeed. And then the user also has the ability to select a number of other pieces of information. So, for instance, if this is purchasing, they might want to see the promise date of a particular purchase order. And if I click on more columns, we have mapped all the relevant tables together in Insight. So the end user doesn't have to know how the tables talk to each other in the background. So obviously with a BI project, or if someone, more importantly, got a little Access database and they're trying to knit together the tables, they need to know the joins between all of these. So being able to give them that information, they can't choose something that's incorrect, because we've only published in there what actually is relevant. Now, within Insight, we have two user interfaces. So what I'm looking at the moment is what we would call our reporting user interface. And you can see at the top of the screen, there's lots of different building blocks. So we can design reports, we can format reports, we can import hierarchies from JDE or Oracle, and we can also view things like graphical information, etc. The majority of our customers will have a small proportion of the reporting users, and then what they will give to the mainstay of the Oracle or JDE users will be a much cut down interface. So this is what we call our console. So at the top of the screen, I've just got a cut down number of filters. I've only got a home tab, but I can still interact and drill down on any of the data, because if I right click, I've still got the links. So people can still interact and manipulate the data that they see on the screen. And just to give you an example of some of the different types of reports that we can create, for instance, in here, we've got a top 10 supplier, and a lot of our customers run this type of information because you often want to see who you've spent the most money with. Is that high volume, low value, or vice versa? You might want to run that for a particular date range or department. And to consolidate that information up and get that information out of JD Oracle would take a huge amount of time. So being able to give the users access to that information enables them to be able to just make better business decisions. They're more informed than they would be otherwise. So obviously, we cover all the finance in JDE, in Oracle, and all the manufacturing and distribution in JDE. But this is Oracle, so I'm just going to concentrate on some finance type reports. So here we've got a live as of age deck. So you could run this report and have a look at your aging, which is completely outside of Oracle or JDE. And you can put any date range in to look at the aging at any particular point of time, and also who the collector is. Just to finish up, we've also got within here an imported hierarchy. So if you're using your level of detail hierarchy or your chart or your parent-child relationships within Oracle, all these can be reported and run directly from within Insight. So that really is a bit of a whistle-stop tour of Insight, but if anybody wants to see anything further, obviously they can get in touch with us and we can run a session that just concentrates on the software. But what we would say to people is, if you like what you've seen, or if you would like to see this running on your data, please do let us know, because it installs in a couple of hours, and all our customers that have bought Insight have actually taken a proof of concept. We've run it on their data, and they can really see the value of the software then, because it really does prove that we can do what we say, and it is very, very quick, and they're literally up and running within the space of a week. So at this point, I'll just ask Amy, have any questions come in, Amy?
Yes, before we get to those, Jules, I'm just going to ask the audience if anyone would like to see the software run over their own data. So just giving you a couple of seconds to fill that in. That's great. Thank you very much, everyone, from your responses. People that have said yes, lovely to see. Yes, wow, lovely. We'll be in touch with you in the next couple of days. So just closing that poll now. Okay, great. So we do have a couple of questions that have come in, Jules. First question, can a user create their own templates for areas that Insight doesn't cover as standard?
Yes, yeah, that's a good question actually, Amy. Because well, there's two. If I take the JDE one first, if it's a JDE user, they might have custom tables that they've set up on the 55 to 59s, and we have what we call Designer Express, and that will enable people to create templates that look at those tables, and those templates will look and behave exactly the same way as our standard Insight templates do. For our Oracle customer user base, they might use Designer Express to create, we've got customers that have created HR templates, for instance, because that's not a module we've actually written Insight to run over at the moment. So any table within the database is actually accessible, and those templates will look and behave exactly the same as our standard templates, because it's written using the same technology that we use.
Okay, lovely. Second question, Jules. Which versions of Oracle do you run over?
Right, okay. We run over all versions of Oracle up to 12.1.3, all versions of 11, and from a JDE perspective, we're up to the latest, I think it's 9.1.3 or something on JDE as well, because we are an Oracle Gold partner, so we do keep up to date. So by the time someone's actually installed the latest release and finished their upgrade, we're there. Is there anything else, Amy?
I think we just missed the last bit of that question, Jules. Can you just confirm, is that all versions of JDE and Oracle?
Yes, that's all versions of JDE and Oracle.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Does Insight follow the security defined in Oracle? I suppose that's for JDE as well?
Yes, it does. When you log into Insight, it will ask you for your username, and that will be the username you log into Oracle or JDE with. And from that username, it will define the role from a JDE perspective or the responsibility from an Oracle perspective, and that defines the security. And that usually gets us a really big tick in the box from the auditors, because they want to know that their reporting solutions are actually following the same security that the users would be if they were logging directly into the ERP.
Great, and I think that's just about us out of time now. So thank you very much everyone for joining the call today, and of course thank you to our presenter Julie. Hope to speak to you again very soon. Bye everyone.